It's time for Bringing the Heat with Brian Nolen.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bringing the Heat with Brian Nolen, but Brian Nolen's not here. My name's Trey Lyle, filling in for Brian this week, and it's a happy hour edition as I'm joined by Michael Massie, M_Massie22, as we were two of the people that were at Richmond this past weekend. We'll dive into that in a moment. But speaking of Richmond, Massie had a conversation with Jerry Nadeau. Part two of that conversation rolls right now. They talk more about his crash at Richmond, his return to action from that, what he wants to still do in the sport. So let's go into the Inferno with Jerry Nadeau, part two.
Now it's time for
the white flag.
One more time, buddy.
One more lap to go in the 2000 NASCAR Winston Cup season. The interval is 1.2 seconds between Nadeau and Dale Earnhardt.
Back it down and coast through this corner.
Back in March of '81, Darrell Waltrip took the checkered flag to win the very first race that we televised on ESPN. And in November of 2000, Jerry Nadeau wins the final race on ESPN. It is his first Winston Cup win in his 103rd race, the fourth first-time winner of 2000, and the 14th different winner this year.
To go into the Inferno with Brian.
We got to get back to Richmond that day, May 2003. The whole reason you had the essay come out and all that. What can you tell me about that day in particular? Like, was it any other day leading up to it, or?
Yeah, I mean, I got up, had my breakfast, and that was about it. I don't really know a whole lot after that. It's, the brain does wonderful things. When you have something bad happen, it just takes it out. So I don't remember anything. All I know is I had a lot of broken bones, and I had a punctured lung and fractured vertebrae and 4 broken ribs, a broken scapula. But yeah, when I woke up, all my bones were healed. I had a lot of nerve damages, so I couldn't really feel my left side. I was limping. I was in a wheelchair for a little while. I had to relearn how to walk, relearn how to talk. I had to relearn numbers. I had to relearn faces. I used to call people by different names. It was a bit horrifying in the beginning, but I stayed to myself. I did a lot of rehab. I thought I was going to come back. I got back in a car a little bit too soon, and I got frustrated. I think I was in a car like not even a year after the accident, and I was testing at Concord, and I was really, really tired, and I was seeing 3 cars. The brain is precious. And unfortunately, I've had a few bumps in my life. So I think it was time for me to hang it up.
You said you did a test within that year. Was that the 01 car?
Yeah.
Okay. And
yeah, we went to Concord, and I was literally within 2/10 of Terry. It's a short track, but I just didn't feel right. My vision was a little bit off. It's hard to take it when the doctor says, choose another profession. It literally kills you. And I know Ernie tried to come back, and he actually won a race, but
right.
Had another wreck and it got worse. But all in all, I think that's all we know how to do as a racer. I kind of, had a child at the time, and, my mom and dad moved down from Connecticut after my accident. I just, family's important. I don't make the big money I used to make. And to this day, it's been 21 years after, and I'm still trying to figure out what am I doing, where am I going. I enjoy racing. So yeah, if there's anybody out there that's watching or reading this, give me a call. I'm looking to help somebody out.
Yeah. And I saw you said that in the article as well, that you're if a race team reached out to you or some driver needing development or something like that, you'd be down to help out, or or do
Yeah,
something for
I
the
my thing is I'm an open book. I love to share my story. I love to help people out. It's you don't get to the way I was raised. I think helped out a lot with my mom and dad. We're raised pretty tough. We didn't have a lot of money. We're renting a house for $250 a month up in Connecticut, and my dad spent everything on racing. And finally, my mom had to put him down. Say, listen, we need, we need to quit the racing and get ourselves a house. The roof was leaking. Even though my dad was a roofer, we had water spots coming in. So all in all, we my dad was an adrenaline junkie. Loved racing. Built his own stuff. I enjoyed it. I went after it. I left home after I graduated from high school, and I just went after the career. And I came down here with $150 in my pocket, and I made it. So yeah, I mean, I like to share the story. I like to see. I know there's a lot of parents, with money that are just buying thing, and I think that I can save them a little bit of money, instead of you know, throwing them a bunch of stuff at the kid. You really gotta start from the bottom and work your way up to the top. And I love what Kyle's doing with his kid, Kyle Larson and Kyle Busch, with the go-karts. And we have Millbridge Speedway is literally 15 minutes down the road from where I live. So I go there and I help out over there, just flagging, chalking, and picking up the cone. But all in all, I love to help people. Even if they go testing, I can go there and talk to them and see how they are on the track, and really get themselves where they're comfortable in the car, because you have to be comfortable inside the car.
Yeah. Now I know you go to dirt tracks and all that stuff all the time now, but when's the last time you were at a NASCAR race, like a Cup Series race?
Maybe 3-4 years ago, I went in the stands with my wife and some friends, and we just kind of watched a little bit. No, actually, yeah, it might have been a few years ago. I went there with my daughter just to watch the Bush race. We sat in the suites with my friend. He had a spare ticket, and I brought my daughter with me, and he has a kid. So we hung out there and watched the Bush race and came back home.
Gotcha. Have you been back to Richmond Raceway at all since the accident?
I think I was there the year after, but that's it. Yeah. No, I haven't. It doesn't really excite me anymore. I mean, unless if there's something for me to do. If they say, "Hey, Jerry, we want you to do the pace car tonight," then I'll be all for it. But as far as going there and just sitting there and watching it, nah. I enjoy watching the dirt tracks. I enjoy watching the modifieds or the dirt stuff, or even the sprint cars, or Formula One.
Yeah. You said in the article that like you didn't know who you were without racing for a bit there. Is that why we see so many drivers, you think, that were like Jimmy Johnson right now? He's had a great career, but he still keeps coming around. You had guys like DW that ran like well past their prime. Is it that way for all drivers, where it's just like it's hard to hang up because you don't really know what about it?
For me, it's harder. For me, it's 20 times harder, because I had to retire at 36.
Mm.
That sucks. That sucks. At 36, at the prime of your life, you're gone. And so yeah, that to me is the worst. But as far as if I made millions and millions and millions of dollars, then I'm totally fine. And I had a go-kart track, heck, I would be racing at the go-kart track every week. Because I'm a racer. When you're a racer, you'll always be a racer. I don't know. I don't think you're born with it. I think, you have to be raised into it. But then you get kids that learn it at 19 or 20 and they do well. So it really depends. But I think once a racer, I think you're always a racer. No doubt about it. If I set myself up a little bit better, I would probably do a lot more racing. I'd be going to a lot more racetracks just because I love racing. But I've also got to work. I've got to support. I've got one kid in college, and I got one, coming out of elementary. So, yeah, I've still got to make a living. I just don't know. It's been 20 years. I've been trying to figure out what do I need to do. I do work at a racing school in California, in Tennessee, at PTC Driving Academy. That's been really cool. That's a lot of fun. We do our first school next week, so I'm pretty excited for that.
Yeah, you talked a little about that. What is that? Does that fulfill that kind of competitive itch at all? Like getting out there and showing them, and what does it mean to you? Like when a student like gets it?
Listen, that's the only thing that I'm there for, to see their smile on their faces. That's what really that's where I feel beneficial the most. I think the school, it's not professional. It's just something. There's skip barber from the Fords. We run on a 2.3 mile road course. So yeah, that's fun for me because that's where I started.
Right.
So I can they could pay extra and I can go out there and run some laps with them. But you learn so much, and I think to see the smiles coming out of their faces when they get out of the car, that's the cool part about it.
Nice. That's awesome. That's a cool way
Yeah.
for you to give back for sure.
Mhm.
I'll just send you out with a couple more. Hendrick Motorsports is having their 40th anniversary this year. Have they reached out to you at all to like, because you did win a race for them?
They did. They did. I don't even know when it's. I think it's in May, right?
Yeah, I think it's the Martinsville week is when they're doing
Yeah,
it.
I don't. I think I did mention. I replied back that if I'm not working, great. I'll be there. But I've got to. Um, I got to still put food on the table, and if
Right,
everything's good and I can do that, then I will do that for sure.
for sure. And I know you talked about the concussions. So that you had concussions prior to the Richmond
Mhm.
accident. Do you
Yeah,
see? Oh, go ahead.
and not from racing. A lot of them. There was a few from races, but I remember knocking myself out when I fell off a tree when I was younger, and I literally flipped a four-wheeler on the middle of the road. I woke up in the middle of the road with police and people and neighbors, and it's like, so I was a daredevil. I loved to go fast. I loved to do a lot of daring things when I was younger. Um, so I don't know if that's why I was fast when I got into karts. Um, but yeah, I mean, it all went well. It all worked out right. It just it's just there's only so many hits your head can take.
Yeah,
It's like a boxing syndrome. When the boxers get knocked out, every time you knock someone out, you're taking a piece off of you. Your head can only take so many hits, and unfortunately, I took a few, and I took a few more in racing, and that was it.
yeah.
But the cool thing is I have the record of the highest G's
Is
in
that still
NASCAR.
holding? Wow.
So 128 G's. Yeah, that's a big amount. I think they said that my body weighed like 16,500 pounds, and I was only 150 pounds back then. So
That's crazy that at a short track. too, right?
Yeah. And you know what? It's weird. It's like I thought I was doing. You look at the accident, and it's like, what the hell? It almost seemed like I was going faster backwards, or when I hit driver's side. It's weird how it happened. Um, and the unfortunate thing is NASCAR. They put safer barriers right after that weekend.
Right.
If they only came like a week before the accident, then I think I would have probably walked out of that thing.
Man, yeah, those things have saved lives, for sure.
Yeah.
They put them in.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, that's all the questions I got for you. I do want to say to you that was, I grew up in Richmond, and the first race I ever went to, first day, was that day. So you left an impact in my mind. I've kept up with you for year, just was remember coming home from school, like in the weeks following that, like checking updates to see, like, is he okay? So it's really cool to talk to you now, to see like you pull through that, and there's no question or anything. I just felt like I should tell you that 20 years later,
that's cool. That's really cool. I appreciate that. I know, a lot of people are a little afraid to talk to drivers, and me, I'm just a normal guy. I think, just like when Jen contacted me to do my story on Discourse, she went to the racetrack at Dover, with her dad and met me there. And then, then with my accident happened not long after that. So yeah, it's unfortunate. But we do wear safety harnesses. We do wear safety belts. We wear helmets. We're like fighting gladiators out there. So sometimes things don't work out right, and unfortunately, mine wasn't the best. But all in all, I'm happy. I've got a great wife. I've got 2 beautiful kids. I've got a great dog. And we're enjoying life, and who knows? Maybe you'll see my hot dog stand somewhere on your main street.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. When's the hot dog stand opening up?
Hopefully soon. Hopefully soon. Maybe that's my new calling. I'm not sure yet. But yeah, I'm. We'll see. I'm going to my buddies. My buddies have an RC race in Trotman, so I'm going to go down there and watch some races with RC cars. And then I'll be back next week in Tennessee with the PTC, the Formula Fords, and I'll go back to Millbridge, and we'll see what happens after that.
Absolutely. Well, that's all the time we got as our meeting counts down on the clock of the Zoom meeting. So great to talk to you, Jerry. Thanks so much for giving me your time. I appreciate it.
No, dude, you're good. You're for sure. This was a lot of fun, and sorry that was one of your favorite places. I know Richmond is still a favorite place of mine. I love that place. So good to meet you.
Yeah, good to talk to you and just hear your story. Just keep on. If anyone is looking for someone with a lot of racing knowledge and to help out, that's your guy right there.
Thank you.
Welcome on back, and thanks so much for that conversation, Massie. And since you're here, Michael Massie, M_Massie22, I will not ask you how you're doing. I will ask you what were your feelings about that conversation, and anyone else you want to thank for setting that up.
Yeah. That was a great talk with Jerry. I mean, he's so energetic, and it's just cool to see, how far he's come since that terrible injury that he had to relearn everything. Like, imagine that, like relearning how to like walk and talk and all that. But thank you to Jennifer Tideman of Discourse magazine for helping set that up. And yeah, it was really cool thing, because I was there when that was the first race weekend I ever went to, was that Richmond race where he wrecked in practice. And so I've always had him on my mind. And, I remember checking J-Ski like daily back then to see if like he was all right, what his process was. So very cool to get to talk to him all these years later.
Well, let's react to a little bit that happened at Richmond this past weekend with What's Still Hot.
What's still hot? It's time to upgrade you on the latest news in NASCAR.
This past weekend at Richmond, we did see a winner in Denny Hamlin winning his 5th time at his home track at Richmond. Ultimately, the controversy came at the final restart. Obviously, Truex dominating the race, but Denny Hamlin wins the race off pit road. And ultimately, does he jump the start? We talked a lot about this on Happy Hour, Massie, but I want to ask you, in the days since then, do you think NASCAR handled Denny jumping the start properly?
No, because it is, as of Wednesday, they're still talking about it. Elton Sawyer is still making comments about it, whereas like they should have just had their initial comment. They could have just said, we missed it. You know what? It happens in sports. Refs in football, basketball, they miss calls all the time. A strike might not be called in a baseball game, and it happens. It's a part of the human error element. They should have said that, not said anything else. By now, we would have forgotten about it already, right? We'd be on to the next subject, on to Martinsville. But instead, it's like every day they keep saying something else. It's like they defended themselves first, then they said they missed it, then they came back out on Wednesday and defended themselves some more. So they should have picked a narrative, stuck with it, moved on to the next thing.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, we said a little bit of this in Happy Hour. It's just kind of like it's the 2-minute report in the NBA. Like, there's no point of it. It just makes people mad that you admit you messed up. Like, you kind of just have to bury it and move on. And I think that would be the only thing left to do. All right. Speaking of Richmond, another kind of thing is, will Richmond get a second date next season? I think Jordan Bianchi has wrote about that. It's very much a possibility that it won't happen. You have that's Jordan Bianchi of The Athletic. You have 2 Richmond natives who, I'm assuming your first race ever was at Richmond Raceway.
It was.
My first race ever was at Richmond International Raceway. And not just that, it was my birthday party. So I have a very sentimental place to this. We both wish Richmond was on 6 times a year, because then we can go to more races. But
sleep in my own bed too.
I know, right? I can sleep at my parents' house on a couch, but that's okay. But my question, Massie, is ultimately removing that love and affection that I think both of us have for that place, the special love where, you fall in love with this sport like we did, and a parallel for us would be as if you say Lane Stadium loses a home game. Like, it would be the same thing. Do you think there'll be 2 Richmond dates next season?
Sadly, I don't. And I thought for a couple of years they were going to take away the second date just because the attendance hasn't been what it once was. I mean, I remember you had to know somebody to get you had to have a connection to get a ticket there, because that place was sold out for like 20 plus something races in a row. But yeah, the tickets haven't been there. The ratings were down. There's a lot of people complaining about the racing there in recent years. And sadly, I just think it would be such an easy fix, because the track hasn't changed. And it's not like Texas, where they did a repave reconfiguration or whatever
and ruined it.
It ruined it. It's the same surface that was great 20 years ago. It's just the car and the tire are what's hurting it. And that's why, some of the other tracks like Dover, Michigan, some of those that have lost the date, I think it's helped those tracks, because those tracks never really had amazing racing to start with, but Richmond did. So I wish instead of
it's the action track, it's the action track.
Exactly.
That's what it was sold as, and it meant it.
Hey, and we had tempers flaring this past weekend.
Hey, I remember when Junior I was at the race. I was not at the race where Kyle Busch wrecked Junior. I was at the race at Richmond where Junior got Kyle Busch back. And that was very eventful. And I will just say this. That was a young Trey Lyle seeing a lot of middle fingers for the first time at one Kyle Busch. But you talked about tires. That's a perfect segue to our What's Still Hot moment.
What's still hot? It's time to upgrade you on the latest news in NASCAR.
Yeah, first of all, a credit to Jim France. This was his vision a couple of years ago. He tasked the R&D Center in Goodyear to come up with a tire that we could run in a damp, and tonight was a success. We were able to get the race started pretty much on time. The guys did a great job with the tire. Goodyear did a phenomenal job. We called the competition caution at lap 30. That was about where we needed to be. Looked like we might have been able to go another 5 or so laps, but the main thing is we were able to get the race started, get going. Our fans at home got to view the race as well as the fans here at the track. So goal accomplished.
The decision to do non-competitive pit stops, what went into that?
Yeah, unlike road courses, when pit road is wet, where we would allow the teams to make the decisions whether they put dry or wet on the short ovals, we're still not to a place where we feel comfortable doing that. We're looking out for the safety. This is only our third event that we've actually run wet weather tires. We ran the trucks at Martinsville last year, obviously Wilkesboro. So we have another data point. That's one thing we want to work hard on, is to be able to start the race, put all the competition in the team's hands, the strategy, when to put tires on, when to take them off, and the sanctioning body not be in the middle of that decision making. I think we'll get there sooner than later, but all in all, just a huge success. And credit to Goodyear and all of our folks at the R&D Center, and obviously Mr. France's vision to get us here.
So this past Sunday night, we had history in the first points-paying oval race, say that 3 times fast, that featured wet weather tires. It was for 30 laps at the start of the race. We gave some reaction at happy hour. We both said that should be the permanent tire. So I don't want to ask you about the tire itself. He touched on the non-competitive pit stops. He touched on the fact that, this is very new in terms of our data points, and we didn't want to risk it compared to a road course, and, et cetera, et cetera. NASCAR handling that first 30 laps of this race, getting the race on essentially on time. I think it might have been like 10 minutes late, and getting, only doing 30 laps and the non-competitive pit stop to switch it back. Do you believe, considering the lack of data, that was the right path, considering that we got the entire race in and it was on time, given it was a Sunday night, Easter night, and everything that goes along with that?
I think, they did everything the right way to the best of their ability. I agree with, throwing that caution 30 laps in, because you don't know, you want everyone to come in and take a look at the tires, make sure they weren't on like their last threads right there after 30 laps. But I think they could have, take a look at it and send them, seeing the track was still damp, and send them back out there for 40 laps, to the end of the first stage on the damp tires. But I get why they did the things they did. Obviously, it's easy to Monday morning quarterback this and say, they could have had live pit stops, because they have live pit stops at Watkins Glen when it's wet. But first time on the oval, it's just different. A lot of factors. You want to put safety first, which that's the main thing. You can argue about everything, but the fact that they put safety first is the greatest thing about this whole thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, NASCAR, after that 30 laps, officiated the race awful. Go see Happy Hour for our opinions about that, which you can check out on the Front Stretch podcast feed right here on the Front Stretch podcast feed, or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Front Stretch, where you can see this great interview as well. I completely agree with you. When it comes to the wet weather tires, I think getting more data is the key right now. And this is, I think, the logical, like you had Martinsville with the trucks, you had North Wilkesboro. I feel like this was the logical quote unquote third step. And the next, I think, is let's say a stage of it. And with it, maybe one pit stop, or maybe you get to decide. And Elliott Sawyer, who I probably should have introduced, that was Elliott Sawyer from NASCAR. I didn't say that. We talked about him a couple times already on this show. But he was saying they want to have the strategy in the team stance, and I think that will add a great layer of strategy when it comes. All right, Massie, one final segment. We'll get you out of here with our checkered flag.
It's going to be a drag race all the way back to the start-finish line. No caution. They're side by side, right to the line. Big crash. Here they come. Checkered flag.
The checkered flag is out, and it's time for the final thoughts.
Final thoughts, anything you want to rant, rave, or review about, the floor is yours, Mr. Michael Massie.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'm going to come back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier. Richmond, 2 dates. Let's keep it. I know it's not going to happen, but let's please keep it at 2 dates.
Please.
Because part of it, I feel like NASCAR is doing this assault on short tracks right now, on short tracks and road courses, where, you know, everybody was like, oh, we want more short tracks, we want more road courses. So they bring out this car that's terrible at both of them. And they're like, see, we gave you more short tracks and road courses and you don't like it. So when really it's just NASCAR gave them a worse car. Like, make the car better at those types of tracks. You don't have to change the track, just change the car. I feel like that would be way easier. Just get, you know, it sounds like the more horsepower is feasible. It sounds like Goodyear bringing softer tires is definitely feasible. Let's make it happen, NASCAR.
Yeah, I think that's something I've stumped for. I think Easter Sunday is over. Like, in this sport, Chris Myers kind of insinuated it on Twitter, but I think if you look at their schedule, it is unlike any other sport. They go 10 months out of the year, and they have the shortest offseason in professional sports. And people say, oh, it's 1 day a week. It's not. It's not 1 day a week. It's more like 6 days a week, considering all the work that needs to be done on these cars. And unless it's an Olympic year, you get 1 week off. That's just criminally insane. Like, I get 10 days off, so at least I would get 2 weeks, you know, off from work. So making this, I think this is, I always think, like, you go 10, and, you know, you do a break like at Easter, you do a break halfway in the summer, and then you do a break right before the playoffs. Because one, you want to build up anticipation. Or when you get this new TV schedule, you do a break after Fox, a break after Amazon Max, whatever the middle section is going to be, and then you do the NBC end. It's just, it needs to be broken up more. And I think we're talking schedule here, but like Easter is done. It didn't work. I think NASCAR was trying to compare it to Christmas and to Thanksgiving. And I think the problem is when Easter is a religious holiday, or being like especially in the South, which is a very key demographic for NASCAR. I think people watch football no matter what. Like, you can't compare yourself to football because football is football, you know? So in the end, I think Easter's dead, and I think that's ultimately a good thing. Granted, I have covered 2 races on Easter now, but I'm not the most religious person. All right, that will do it for this episode of Bringing the Heat. Good news is, I don't know if it's good news for you, Byran Nolen will be back here next week. I don't know who he'll have on. It might be me. It might be Chase. Us two are heading to Martinsville this weekend. Massie, anything else I missed that you want to plug before we get on out of here?
Just listen to if you haven't listened already, listen to our happy hour episode from yesterday. I think it was pretty good.
2 days ago when this comes out.
2 days ago. Okay.
Well, yesterday it came out on Wednesday. Well, we recorded on Tuesday. It's kind of confusing, but yeah.
Confusing.
The good news is
previously on this thread.
If you watch the end of the video when we go see our good friend, the Dalton Hopkins cutscene, there's a link to the happy hour video All you do is click that. So
there you go.
How about that? And fun episode there as well. Also coming up next on the podcast feed, Through the Gears betting preview for Martinsville. So if you want to earn a little bit of that dollar bills, y'all, make sure you tune in to Through the Gears. For Michael Massie, my name is Trey Lyle. If you're at Martinsville, give me a hello. I'll be there as well. I'll be crushing some hot dogs. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Bring the Heat with Brian Nolen.
Hey everyone, Dalton Hopkins here with FrontStretch.com. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and check out one of the 2 videos next to me to see more of our racing content.